see Sandra in a movie when I was in high school made me feel like I could do it, that it was possible for me. Also because it was about a Korean woman who wanted to be an actress, and Sandra was Korean, or is Korean. And so I went out and I found the Cat on a Hot Tin Roof play, and I read it, and I just cried for like an hour after, because I related so deeply to the themes of loneliness and the painful experience of what being a human is, and also how love, no matter how much you love someone, oftentimes the result is very painful. That love is not oftentimes unconditional, it's very complicated, and that love hurts. And these are all things that I had experience of. And I just kept it a secret love, me and Tennessee Williams and Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, because I thought there's no way I'll ever play her, because she has a Southern accent. It's in Mississippi in the 1950s. So when the auditions came up for Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, and it was with a director I had worked with before, I thought if ever I might have a chance at this role, it's this opportunity, because I've worked with a director before. It's a theater company that I'm a part of. And I went around looking for, I did search engines on other Asian American Maggies, and nothing came up. And I had this moment where I realized there doesn't have to be a precedent for me to be validated in going out for this role. I don't have to need an example of an Asian American woman playing Maggie for me to go after it. I can be my own Sandra Oh. Like what Sandra Oh was to me, maybe me being the first Maggie, I can give that to some, other girl who feels like she wants to play Stella in Streetcar and she's Chinese. To say, no, actually you can. There's no boundary to what role you can play. And so I did a lot of research into Asian Americans in the Deep South, and through this book called Asian Americans in Dixie. And that led me to another book called Chopsticks in the Land of Cotton. And it was all about the Chinese immigrants who had been in the Deep South from coming over as coolies in the late 1800s. And they all stayed and built families and brought families over from China, to where by the 1950s, a lot of them had become accepted members of the society. Their families had been there for like 50 years. So the people who were growing up in the Deep South, they had Southern accents. They were American. The way I consider myself American, they weren't walking around with a Chinese accent. They were American with Chinese ethnicity. And when we retell these stories in the 1950s, we often see just white and black, mostly because that is the huge conflict with Jim Crow segregation and everything in the Deep South that you think of as that binary world of black and white. But within that, there were huge populations of Mexican, of Chinese, of Italians. And at those times, the thing is that what I love about playing Maggie in Cat on a Hot Tin Roof is I get to show I get to pay homage to an American experience that goes untold, which is the Chinese Americans who lived in the Mississippi Delta, who were there. And you see these movies in the 1950s, how often do you see an Asian person, walking along the streets, and let alone be accepted members of society, not talking with a Chinese accent or running a laundromat, but having families, having homes, being part of society. So once I found that research, I went to the director with it, and it's become really the spine of my Maggie, of why she feels like a cat on a hot tin roof, with no choices really, except to fight to stay in this family. And she grew up poor, and she had no money, and she, wants to just get a piece of land to prove she has a right to exist. And myself as an immigrant, I became a citizen of the United States when my mother did in junior high. I've felt that my entire life of having to prove that I have a right to belong here, that I am American. My early years, I was bullied a lot in school, called really bad names, racist names. And so my Maggie has become so intertwined with my own experience as someone who by sheer force and will win, will determination to like take a piece of land and say, I belong here. I have a right to exist. So that was winding all the way around people I looked up to, but to say that Sandra Oh became somebody that helped me who was the entry point to Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, and it's all kind of come full circle.